Today on the podcast, we are going to be explaining why we need more chuckles in our lives in a reaction to Bud Light's latest post.
All right, love it. Let's get to work.
Woo! Now we're going to talk about the Bud Light post.
So I'll flash it here in a second, but essentially I posted a short about Bud Light partnering with the UFC.
And that blew up.
Check it out. Check it out. Bud Light wins a sponsorship deal with the UFC and Dana White. After one of the most epic marketing failures of all time, it's good to see them getting back to their core customers and values. Now that you've seen that, essentially, my intention with this post was Bud Light, after making a really epic marketing failure, one that's going to be studied in case study, at
Forever.
Universities for a long time. They've lost billions of dollars in revenue and lost a lot of clients literally forever. It's one of the biggest blunders of all time, in my opinion.
Yeah.
However, we saw this news that they partnered with the UFC, and Dana White came out and talked about this. But essentially, they're sponsoring the UFC. I think it's a 6-year contract. And as I looked at this, I thought, well, okay, I'm not a Bud Light drinker and definitely not a Bud Light drinker after this fiasco. But I looked at this and I thought, well, ultimately, they're
trying to do better.
Yeah, they're trying to do better, right? They've reshuffled their marketing team, lost a few people in that. We know. And then they're trying to, get into sponsoring events that are more maybe in their core customer demographics. And you have to appreciate that, I guess, to some extent, that they're trying to get back on track. Now, we'll get into the comments because we had this blew up. We got well over 1,000 views on this short and a lot of comments, some more constructive than others. But what I would pose is, what should Bud Light do in this situation? Because there are people that never forget, never. Bud Light is burned forever. And I can understand that. And then there's other people that are like, well, this is a team or a regime of management that needed to be sort of weeded out or get a little reality check, let's say.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm going to pose a few different scenarios, and I'm curious what you boys think, because we've talked about Bud Light, and and before I get into those scenarios, Max, you had some really strong words for Bud Light and Travis Kelce. So why is that?
Well, first of all, it's because why does Travis Kelce now like Bud Light? Even it's because it's literal Taylor Swift who's probably getting into this, and I don't know why. And now I hate him, so now he's like my least favorite player.
Calm down.
I can see that you've been deeply scarred by Travis Kelce's sponsorship of Bud Light. Maybe more so his sponsorship of Pfizer.
Oh, come on!
Yeah,
Max used to love Travis Kelce until this incident, and now he hates him. Very badly.
Well, he's still a great player, but you have to ask yourself, I think, to me, Max, I ask myself more why he would sponsor Pfizer as a role model for youth, knowing that particularly youth and healthy people, like the vaccine has limited impact to maybe negative impact for children. You got to wonder why he would get on that, but I'm sure it was a lucrative deal. And then Bud Light, and again, this is going to, I think, Bud Light's trying to put their money into demographics and areas that are more central to its mission, values, etc. So, anyway, that got you fueled, Max, didn't it?
Yes.
Okay.
Max,
right.
Seriously, you need to calm down.
Calm yourself, Max. Here, should we take a Valium and go back to the question of what should Bud Light do? I'm going to throw a few different scenarios, and I'm curious what you boys think, because you do understand the whole, what happened with Dylan Mulvaney, and then the subsequent reaction from the masses, and now their recent sponsorship of Travis Kelce and the UFC. So let's see what you think about what we could do from here. Option one is Bud Light could just close down the brand, say, it's over. We've really messed up. We're going to close down the brand. Is no longer Bud Light. We're sorry. And then open some new beer brand, which is basically Bud Light in a different can, and call it Bud Not or something, right? So move from Bud Light to Bud Not, rebrand it, and start over.
Or maybe no.
Get knocked out of existence.
Yes. So getting knocked out of existence is option 1.
I choose number 1.
Max, you haven't heard the other options.
I don't care. I choose number 1.
Max, you've already determined that you want option 1. You want them to just
hold up.
Close up shop.
Now I need to think a little bit.
Okay.
If I need to hear the other option.
So now you want to hear the other option.
Yes.
Interesting. Okay. Option 2. Option 3 you might find interesting too, Max. So just wait. Option 2 is that Bud Light does essentially what they are doing, which is they remove brand recognition with Dylan Mulvaney and actors of that nature that aren't maybe sort of core to their message, demographic, user group. And they shift their investment and their focus into people that are, like football, like UFC. And so option 2 is they do what they're doing and they try to pivot and get back on track. Okay? That's option 2.
I like
option 3 is they just turn Bud Light into a trans beer. This is the LGBTQ plus beer of choice for the universe, and they rebrand it as that. This could be their market niche. They focus on LGBTQ plus IA ampersand sign, etc. And that is their market. And now Bud Light is, sort of that beer. What do you think? Those are the 3 options. So again, close down shop, number 1. Do what they're doing, number 2.
So,
be the trans beer of choice, number 3. What do you think they should do? Max, let's start with you since you have a strong opinion about all of this.
You're still going to pick one, aren't you?
Probably. But number 2, does that mean like they're just going to not sponsor anyone?
Well, it means they're doing what they're doing, meaning they're sponsoring groups, organizations, affiliates that are more aligned with their core customer group.
Number 1.
You just think they should close down shop?
Yeah.
Okay, and then how does that make you feel? So okay, let's move on because I want to come back to that, Max. But Will, what do you think they should do?
I think I might take number 2.
Boom, got it. Boom.
Okay. And in terms of getting done principles,
yep,
purpose, discipline, integrity. Tell me, let's go to Will first on this. Why do you think number 2 is the most productive choice?
I think the reason why is because they have realized their mistake. So then they want to fix the mistake, and then over time they probably then their market would probably go slowly like up and up and up and up and up and up and up, and then it'll just go back to normal.
Yeah. So you think getting things back on track would help them slowly recover? I think they've done some serious brand damage, and it will take time to recover. But you think that will help them recover, and that's why you think it's the most productive choice.
Yeah. The reason I didn't choose number 1 was because they probably like the people that work at Bud Light, those are their jobs, and they want them to keep their jobs, right? They don't want to fire people just because they're not bankrupt.
Yeah.
So it's basically where I think number 2 would be better, because number 1 is just where you are they're just taking it away. And I don't know, that would probably be nice because then, no more trans beer, but the thing is though that then too they would be able to make up their mistake and people would realize that.
Yeah.
Now since Will said that everyone would be gone at their job, and they probably won't get another job. But
How do you know that?
I have no idea.
Well,
But maybe like now, yeah, if it gets out of existence, that will still be good. But like now, I'm kind of agreeing with Will too.
Okay. So, Max, your mind is shifting a little bit as we explore the topic a little bit more. Your fury and rage is settled in a little bit. Now you're thinking a little bit more rationally and logically. No, you still have a lot of rage. Okay.
I'm still gonna tear a can in half.
Okay. Look, Max, here's the deal with number one that I think is challenging or problematic is if they just close down the brand, do you think they're really going to close down all of the beer production, marketing dollars, the packaging, the labeling, or do you think they'll just change it to Bud Not, or maybe not even a Bud, maybe they'll just call it,
or maybe they could just say non-trans beer.
It's a not queer beer, and they go to market with that, but it's literally Bud Light with a different package. And then ultimately, are we any better off? Because the same company, Anheuser-Busch, that owns Bud Light, just repackaged Bud Light as non-queer beer, and they're selling it, and now it's suddenly popular, just like Bud Light was. Like, do you think all of that effort and change is really going to make a difference, Max?
Well.
I don't know. I don't know. I'm sort of just posing the question because I think it's an interesting dilemma that they're in.
Yep. What do you think they should do?
Well, it's difficult because they have really burned their trust with a lot of customers, and that's apparent by the comments that we saw. And I'll pull some of these up and cover it, but it's going to be a long road for them to repair. So if they shut down, I think they'd have to just repackage and relabel everything, or they keep, steady and try to regain their trust and recognition. And moving option 3, that market size is so small that it, although it's maybe growing, it's small that it's not really a viable option for them, sort of financially.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I think that they are moving in the right direction. That was the spirit of my post. Was I think Bud Light is moving in a productive direction.
Yes.
And they have learned a hard lesson. Some might say that Bud Light should come out and officially apologize and grovel. Well,
this is kind of their way in apologizing.
I think it is. Exactly, Will. That's a very good point. This is their apology. We're sponsoring the UFC. We dug deep in the pockets. And I guarantee that is not a cheap sponsorship because UFC is very popular. And they sponsored one of the greatest football players in the game today, Travis Kelce. So they're digging deep in the pockets and essentially saying they're sorry, right?
Basically, yes.
Yeah. Now let's circle back to some of the comments that I received, and I'm just gonna go through a few of these.
Yeah, you gotta bring them on screen.
One is their core customers are long gone and ain't coming back. Super sad how Dana White greed is poisoning everything that he built. Well, that's an interesting comment. Now, Dana White has been interviewed about this. It's a controversial decision, especially for a guy who has traditionally been a very conservative, non-woke kind of person. He runs the UFC, and I've seen Dana White speak in person a couple, and he's a very, I'd say, authentic, genuine person. He says what's on his mind, and so I've generally had a lot of respect for him and the way he operates. He answers tough questions. He answered questions around this by basically saying that he still holds a lot of the same core values true as Bud Light. He's a big sponsor of first responders, military, etc. Bud Light does a lot of that. Now, one might also say, well, sure, but a lot of these beer companies do the same. And perhaps Bud Light just did have the strongest offer in terms of their sponsorship. We probably won't know that, but
Yeah.
I do appreciate that he answered the questions in a
Genuine way.
In a genuine way, and was like fairly transparent about it. However, there's still a lot of speculation that ultimately they just had the best dollars, and so Dana went with them for that. So that was that comment.
Next comment.
Let's see.
There's 16, right?
Here's another comment. Said, core customers and values, ? Simply by partnering with the UFC? Nope. Dumb statement. Appreciate you.
Whoa.
Yeah. And then I responded, and the response to my response was, there's no fixing this. Another comment was, their core customers? Huh? LOL. We know their core customers.
Hmm.
And another comment was, LOL, there is no coming back. This is going to be a disaster for Dana. I'm planning on watching less now. Bud Light still hasn't admitted they made a mistake. We're not going to forget. So what this shows me, and there was a number of comments like this, what it shows me is there are people that are still very upset and furious about this. Max,
Yeah.
you calm down a little bit. I
You're like,
appreciate that. But
I'm not calm.
There's a lot of people that are still very upset about that shift. And while Bud Light has paid a pretty big price, some don't think it's enough. And this cancel culture phenomenon that we have, woke, unwoke, cancel culture, where sometimes we don't want to just see people struggle, apologize. We want to see them absolutely like ruined, destroyed. And I don't know that that's actually going to fix things long term or be a productive outcome. I do believe that people learn, organizations learn, they make adjustments, they shift, they get back on track, they continue to produce and be contributing members of the system. That is ultimately the most productive outcome. Hence why I believe number 2 is the way to go.
Yep.
Still not buying Bud Light and putting it in my freezer, but
over time you might
maybe
rethink
we'll
that.
see. Yeah.
Yep.
All right, that wraps up our Bud Light session. So obviously a very controversial and dynamic topic. What do you think? Put some comments into the thread. Let's explore it together. If you like our content and agree with our mission, it would really help us out if you like, subscribe, and comment. Engage with us. Become part of the GSD Nation. Let's go.